The great chamber of the Galactic Council was built to make visitors feel small. Its walls stretched upward for hundreds of meters, covered in gold and silver symbols that told the history of 12 ancient species. Floating platforms held the representatives of civilizations that had ruled the stars for thousands of years. And at the very bottom, on a simple metal platform that barely rose above the floor, stood the human delegation. Daniel Carter had been the human ambassador to the council for 7 years. He was a tall man in his 50s with gray hair and tired eyes. He had learned to ignore the insults, the dismissive looks, and the way the elder species talked about humans as if they were children who had wandered into an adult conversation. But today felt different. Today, the chamber was full, and no one had told him why. "The session will begin," announced High Arbiter Zorvax, his deep voice echoing through the chamber. He was a Velthrani, a species of tall beings with pale blue skin and 4 arms. They had led the council for 600 years. And Zorvax had made it clear from Daniel's first day that he considered humans to be barely worth noticing. Daniel pressed the button on his platform to request speaking rights. The light above him turned red. Denied. "We have gathered to address a growing threat to galactic stability," Zorvax continued. "For 80 years, the species known as humans have been members of this council. In that time, they have repeatedly refused to share their technological developments. They have expanded their territory without proper authorization. And they have shown a disturbing tendency toward independence that threatens the unity we have maintained for millennia." Daniel pressed the button again. Red light. He felt his heart beating faster. "The council has reviewed the evidence and reached a decision," Zorvax said. "Humanity is hereby declared a disruptive element. They will surrender all military vessels within 30 standard days. They will dismantle their weapons research facilities. And they will accept permanent oversight by council observers." The chamber erupted in approval. Representatives from a dozen species applauded and cheered. Daniel stood frozen, unable to believe what he was hearing. He pressed the button a 3rd time, holding it down. The light flickered between red and yellow. "The human ambassador wishes to speak," someone called out, their voice mocking. Laughter filled the chamber. Zorvax raised one of his 4 hands. "Let him speak. It will be amusing to hear his response." Daniel's platform rose slowly until he was level with the lower council members. He looked around the chamber at the faces staring down at him. Some showed contempt, others showed pity. None showed respect. "High Arbiter," Daniel said, keeping his voice steady, "what you are proposing is not oversight. It is conquest. You are asking humanity to surrender its ability to defend itself based on crimes we have not committed." "Your crimes are your ambition," Zorvax replied. "Your species has existed for a mere fraction of our history, yet you behave as if you are our equals. You are not. You never will be. This decision is final." Daniel nodded slowly. He had prepared for this moment for years, hoping it would never come, but knowing it probably would. Every human ambassador before him had sent the same warning back to Earth. The Council would never accept humanity. Sooner or later, they would try to put humans back in what they considered their proper place. "I understand," Daniel said. "Then I have only one thing to say." He paused and looked directly at Zorvax. "You have made a terrible mistake. You think you know what humanity is. You have watched us for 80 years and decided we are weak, primitive, and easily controlled. But you have only seen what we wanted you to see." More laughter echoed through the chamber, but it was nervous now. "We came to this council hoping to find allies," Daniel continued. "We showed you respect that you never returned. We followed your rules even when they were unfair. And now you declare war on us because our ambition frightens you." He smiled, and there was no warmth in it. "You should be frightened, but not of our ambition. You should be frightened of what you have just awakened." "Remove him," Zorvax commanded, waving a dismissive hand. Council guards approached Daniel's platform. They were Kelvani, a species of large, muscular beings who served as the Council's enforcers. Two of them grabbed Daniel by the arms as they dragged him toward the exit. Daniel called out one last time. "Remember this moment, High Arbiter. Remember that you were warned. And remember that you chose this." The great doors closed behind him with a sound like thunder in a small room beneath the council building. Daniel was released by the guards. They did not speak to him. They simply left him alone with his thoughts and a single communication device. He picked it up and connected to Earth's secure network. The face that appeared on the screen belonged to Admiral Lisa Morgan, commander of Earth's defense fleet. She was a woman in her 60s with short white hair and eyes that had seen too many battles. "Daniel," she said, "we monitored the session. We know what happened." "Then you know what I have to say," Daniel replied. Lisa nodded. "Say it anyway." "For the record." Daniel took a deep breath. Prometheus. The word hung in the air between them. It was a code that every human leader knew, but hoped would never be spoken. It meant that all attempts at peace had failed. It meant that humanity's worst fears had come true. And it meant that Earth was about to show the galaxy what humans were truly capable of. "Understood," Lisa said. "How long do we have?" 30 days, officially. But they will probably move sooner. They think we are helpless." Lisa smiled grimly. "Then they are in for a surprise." The communication ended, and Daniel sat alone in the dark room. Outside, the council was celebrating what they believed was their greatest victory. They had no idea that it was actually the beginning of their greatest defeat. On Earth, sirens began to sound in military bases around the world. Soldiers who had trained for decades without knowing why suddenly received their orders. Scientists who had worked in secret facilities finally learned what their inventions were really for. And in the depths of space, hidden in places the Council had never thought to look, massive shipyards began to wake up. Humanity had spent 80 years preparing for this day. They had smiled and nodded and pretended to be the harmless newcomers the Council wanted them to be. But behind that mask, they had built something the galaxy had never seen before. The Council had declared war on Earth. And humanity was about to respond. 3 days after the declaration, the largest military fleet in galactic history gathered at the edge of the Sol system. 800 warships from 7 different species hung in the darkness of space like a wall of metal and fire. They had come to accept humanity's surrender, and if surrender was not offered, they had come to take it by force. Fleet Master Drenok stood on the command deck of his flagship, the Eternal Judgment. He was a Velthrani, like Zorvax, tall and confident, with the medals of 100 victories displayed on his chest. He had conquered planets before. He had crushed rebellions. He had never lost a battle, and he saw no reason why this would be any different. "Send the message," he ordered. His communications officer broadcast across all frequencies. "Attention, humans of Earth. You have 12 hours to surrender your military vessels and accept Council authority. If you refuse, we will be forced to take action. This is your only warning." The response came within minutes. It was a simple video message from Admiral Lisa Morgan. "Fleet Master Drenok," she said, her voice calm and cold. "Humanity does not surrender. We did not surrender when we fought each other in our world wars. We did not surrender when our planet faced natural disasters that would have destroyed lesser species. And we will not surrender to you. If you want Earth, come and take it." Drenok smiled. He had hoped they would refuse. Conquest was so much more satisfying than simple occupation. "All ships, advance," he commanded. "Formation Alpha. We will be in weapons range of their homeworld within 6 hours." The great fleet moved forward, passing Neptune and then Uranus. Drenek watched the scanner reports with mild interest. Human ships were gathering near Earth, but there were only 47 of them. 47 against 800. It was almost sad. "Fleet Master," his sensor officer reported. "We are detecting unusual energy signatures in the asteroid belt." "Probably mining equipment," Drenek said dismissively. "Humans are known for their obsession with resource extraction." "Ignore it." They passed Saturn. The rings of the great planet glowed in the starlight as the fleet moved by. Some of Drenok's officers took images to send home to their families. It was beautiful, and soon it would belong to the Council. "Fleet Master, the energy signatures are increasing. They appear to be coming from multiple locations." Drenek frowned. "Show me." The main screen displayed a map of the Sol system. Red dots indicated the Council fleet. Blue dots showed the human ships near Earth, but now there were new dots appearing. Yellow ones scattered throughout the asteroid belt and the outer moons. "What are those?" Drenek demanded. Before anyone could answer, space itself seemed to light up dot in the asteroid belt. Massive doors opened in rocks that had appeared to be nothing but dead stone. Ships emerged, one after another, in numbers that made Drenok's blood run cold. They were not small patrol vessels. They were warships, massive and heavily armed, designs the Council had never seen before. On the moons of Jupiter and Saturn, hidden platforms rose from beneath the surface. Weapons that should not exist pointed toward the Council fleet. Energy began to build in their cores. "How many ships?" Drenek whispered. 400, Fleet Master." "No, wait. 420. Still counting." Drenek stared at the screen. The humans have been hiding half their fleet for decades, building in secret, waiting for exactly this moment. Every intelligence report, every diplomatic assessment, every confident prediction had been wrong. "All ships defensive formation," he ordered, trying to keep his voice steady. "Prepare for engagement." Admiral Lisa Morgan's voice came through the communication system again. "You wanted to see what humanity is capable of, Fleet Master. Allow me to show you." The human fleet attacked from all directions at once. Ships that moved faster than anything the Council had ever built cut through space with impossible grace. Their weapons fired beams of focused energy that sliced through Council shields as if they were made of paper. The first volley destroyed 60 Council ships in under a minute. "Return fire," Drenek screamed. "All ships, return fire." The Council fleet responded with everything they had. Plasma torpedoes, kinetic missiles, and energy weapons filled space with light. Some hit their targets. Human ships exploded in balls of fire. But for every human ship that fell, 10 Council ships were destroyed. The battle lasted less than an hour. When it was over, 200 Council ships were nothing but debris. Another 100 were damaged beyond combat capability. The human fleet had lost only 30 vessels. Drenek stood on his command deck, surrounded by alarms and the cries of wounded officers. His flagship had taken multiple hits. Fire suppression systems were struggling to contain the damage. On the main screen, he could see human ships moving into position, ready to finish the job. "Fleet Master," his communications officer said. "Admiral Morgan is hailing us. Put her through." Lisa Morgan's face appeared on screen. She looked exactly as she had before the battle, calm and controlled. "You have a choice, Fleet Master," she said. "You can retreat beyond our system and report to your Council what happened here today. Or you can continue fighting and watch the rest of your fleet die. We did not want this war. You brought it to us. But we will end it one way or another." Drenek wanted to fight. Every instinct in his body told him to keep attacking, to die with honor rather than retreat in shame. But he looked at the faces of his crew, young officers who had families waiting for them, and he could not give the order. "All ships," he said, the words tasting like poison in his mouth. retreat to the outer system. We will regroup beyond Pluto's orbit." As the Council fleet limped away, Drennick sent a message to High Arbiter Zorvax. His hands trembled as he recorded it. "High Arbiter, the human fleet was larger than we anticipated. Their weapons are more advanced than anything in our records. We have lost 200 ships in the first engagement." He paused, struggling to find the right words. "They were prepared, High Arbiter. They were always prepared. We did not surprise them. They surprised us." The message ended, and Drennick sat in his chair, staring at the stars. Somewhere out there, the humans were watching, waiting to see what the Council would do next. He had conquered 100 worlds. He had never tasted defeat until today. And he knew, with cold certainty, that this was only the beginning. On Earth, celebrations erupted in every city. People who had spent days hiding in shelters emerged to cheer as news of the victory spread. Humanity had faced the greatest military power in the galaxy and won the first battle. Admiral Lisa Morgan did not celebrate. She stood in her command center, studying reports, planning the next move. "They will come back," she said to her officers. "They will come back with more ships, more weapons, and more determination." This was just the first day of a long war. She turned to face them, her eyes hard with resolve. "And we will be ready for every single one of them." 1 week after the war began, Daniel Carter sat in a secure bunker beneath the mountains of Colorado. Screens covered the walls around him, showing news feeds from across the galaxy. The Council was in chaos. Species that had been allies for centuries were now questioning everything they thought they knew about humanity and about each other. A door opened behind him, and Dr. Henry Walsh walked in. He was a small man with thick glasses and the nervous energy of someone who had spent his entire life keeping secrets. He carried a tablet filled with documents that very few people had ever seen. "Ambassador Carter," he said, "I believe it is time to tell you the full truth about what we have been doing for the past 60 years. Daniel turned to face him. "I thought I knew the truth. Hidden ships, secret weapons, preparations for war. That is only part of it." Henry sat down and placed the tablet on the table between them. "When humanity first made contact with the Council 80 years ago, our leaders were hopeful. We thought we had found friends among the stars. But within the first decade, it became clear that the elder species would never accept us as equals. I remember the reports," Daniel said. "They treated our diplomats like servants. It was worse than that. We intercepted communications between Council species. They were already discussing how to limit human expansion, how to keep us dependent on their technology, how to ensure we never became a threat." Henry shook his head. "They feared us from the very beginning. They saw something in humanity that terrified them. What did they see? Ambition, creativity, the ability to adapt and change faster than any species they had ever encountered." Henry pulled up a document on his tablet. "Look at this. In 80 years, we went from basic space travel to ships that can match anything in the Council fleet. The Volthrani took 2,000 years to reach the same level. The Calvani took 3,000. We did it in less than a century." Daniel studied the document. It showed the technological progress of different species over time. Humanity's curve was almost vertical compared to the others. "They were right to be afraid," Henry continued. "Not because we wanted to conquer them, but because our very existence proved that their way was not the only way, that their ancient civilizations were not as special as they believed. So we started preparing. Yes, Project Contingency began 50 years ago. We built ships in hidden locations across the solar system. We developed weapons that used principles the Council had never explored. And most importantly, we trained our people to fight a war that we hoped would never come." Henry leaned back in his chair. "But we also did something else. We watched. We listened. We learned everything we could about the council and its members. A new face appeared on one of the screens. It was a woman with silver skin and large dark eyes, a member of the Serati species. Her name appeared below her image, Ambassador Yelena. She's been trying to contact you for 3 days, Henry said. Our intelligence suggests she may want to help us. Daniel looked at the screen with interest. The Serati voted against us in the council session. They did. But we believe they were forced to. The Volthrani have been blackmailing and threatening the smaller species for centuries. Not everyone in the council is our enemy. Daniel nodded slowly. Open a secure channel. Let us see what she has to say. Within minutes, Ambassador Yelena's face appeared on the main screen. She looked tired and frightened, but there was determination in her dark eyes. Ambassador Carter, she said, thank you for speaking with me. I know you have no reason to trust me after what happened in the council chamber. You are right, Daniel replied. I do not trust you, but I am willing to listen. Yelena took a deep breath. The vote against humanity was not fair. The Volthrani threatened my species with economic destruction if we did not support their declaration. They made similar threats to the Kelvani, the Brethari, and 2 other species. We did not want this war. We were forced into it. If that is true, why are you telling me now? Because we saw what happened to the council fleet. Yelena's voice dropped to almost a whisper. You defeated 800 ships with half that number. You have technology we have never seen. And you showed mercy. You let the survivors retreat instead of destroying them completely. We are not monsters, Daniel said. We never wanted to kill anyone. The council forced our hand. I believe you. And I am not the only one. Yelena leaned closer to the screen. There are 4 species in the council who want this war to end. But we cannot speak openly. The Volthrani would destroy us. We need humanity to help us break free. Daniel looked at Henry, who nodded slightly. This was the opportunity they had been hoping for. What do you need from us? Daniel asked. Proof. Show the galaxy that the Volthrani are the true enemy. Show them that humanity fights with honor. If you can do that, we will withdraw from the Council Alliance. Others will follow. After the communication ended, Daniel stood in silence for a long moment. The war had seemed simple at first. Humanity against the Council. But now he could see that the truth was far more complicated. The Council was not a single enemy, but a collection of species held together by fear and manipulation. Admiral, Lisa Morgan's voice came through the communication system. Ambassador, we have identified a Volthrani supply depot in the Kelver system. It is lightly defended. Our intelligence indicates that Serati civilian transports are also in the area. Daniel understood immediately. Can we strike the depot without harming the Serati vessels? It will be difficult, but yes. Our targeting systems are precise enough to hit only military targets. Do it. And make sure the whole galaxy sees that we protected civilians while destroying military assets. The strike happened 6 hours later. Human ships appeared in the Kelver system without warning. They destroyed the Volthrani depot in minutes, leaving nothing but burning wreckage. But the 3 Serati transport ships in the area were untouched. Human pilots flew escort around them until they reached safe space. The message spread across the galaxy within hours. Humanity did not kill without reason. They targeted their enemies and protected the innocent. They were warriors, but they were not butchers. On the Volthrani homeworld, High Arbiter Zorvax received the news with cold fury. His plans were falling apart. The Alliance was cracking. And the humans, those primitive, short-lived creatures he had dismissed as nothing, were tearing his empire apart piece by piece. He turned to his military advisors. Prepare the extinction array, he ordered. If we cannot control humanity, we will erase them from existence. The advisors exchanged nervous glances. The extinction array was a weapon of last resort, capable of destroying an entire planet. It had never been used. Many believed it should never be used. But Zorvax did not care about their concerns. He cared only about victory. And he was willing to burn entire worlds to achieve it. 2 weeks into the war, humanity faced its darkest hour. Admiral Lisa Morgan stood before a room full of officers in Earth's orbital command station. The screen behind her showed an image that made everyone's blood run cold. A massive structure floating in space, surrounded by 300 warships. It was the extinction array, a weapon capable of destroying Earth in a single shot. Intelligence reports indicate the array will be operational in 72 hours, Lisa said. Her voice steady despite the fear she felt inside. Once it is online, they can fire it at any time. Our planetary shields might hold for a few minutes, but eventually, they will fail. Everyone on Earth will die. Commander Kevin Barnes sat in the front row. He was a man in his 40s, with a scarred face and hands that had seen 100 battles. He had lost friends in the first engagement with the Council fleet. He had no intention of losing anyone else. "What is the plan, Admiral?" he asked. "We strike first. We assemble our fastest and most heavily armed ships and attack the array before it becomes operational. We destroy it or die trying." "And the 300 ships defending it?" Lisa met his eyes. "We go through them." The room was silent. Everyone understood what she was asking. This was not a battle they could win through superior tactics or hidden advantages. This was a desperate mission with almost no chance of success. Kevin Barnes stood up. "I will lead the assault." "Commander, the odds of survival are extremely low." "I know." Kevin looked around at the other officers. "But I did not join the fleet to live forever. I joined to protect Earth. If this is what it takes, then this is what I will do." 20 ships gathered for the mission. They were the best humanity had. Fast attack cruisers armed with the most powerful weapons ever created. Crewed by men and women who knew they might not return home. Among them was Chris Palmer, a young pilot who had just turned 25. His parents had died in the first Council attack, killed when a stray shot hit a civilian station near Mars. He had volunteered for this mission without hesitation. "Are you afraid?" his co-pilot asked as their ship prepared to launch. "Terrified," Chris admitted. "But fear is not a reason to stay behind. My parents would have done the same thing." The fleet jumped through hyperspace and emerged in the heart of enemy territory. The extinction array hung before them like a metal moon, its surface covered with weapons and sensors. Around it, Council warships moved into defensive positions. All ships, attack pattern Omega. Kevin Barnes commanded from his ship, the Resolute. "Target the array's power core. That is our only objective. Everything else is secondary." The battle began. Human ships dove into the Council formation with suicidal courage. Energy beams and missiles filled space with fire. Ships exploded on both sides, creating expanding clouds of debris and death. Chris Palmer flew his fighter through the chaos, dodging enemy fire with reflexes he did not know he had. His targeting computer locked onto a Council cruiser that was blocking the path to the array. He fired, and the cruiser broke apart. "Nice shot," his co-pilot said. "Keep moving. We are not done yet." But the Council ships were too many. For everyone they destroyed, 2 more took its place. The human fleet was taking heavy losses. Half of the attack ships were already gone. Kevin Barnes watched the battle from his command chair, his heart sinking with every casualty report. The array was still intact, still protected by too many enemy vessels. His fleet was dying, and they were no closer to victory. Then he saw it, a gap in the enemy formation. It was small and would close within seconds, but if a ship could get through, it would have a clear shot at the array's power core. "All ships, cover me," Kevin ordered. "I am going in." "Commander, Your ship is too damaged, his first officer protested. The engines are failing. You will not make it back. I know. Kevin Barnes pushed his ship forward with everything it had left. Enemy fire tore into his hull. Alarm screamed. Crew members fell around him. But he kept going, focused on only one thing. Chris Palmer saw what the commander was doing. He understood immediately. Everyone, protect the Resolute, he shouted into his communication system. Give him everything you have. The remaining human ships formed a protective wall around Kevin's damaged vessel. They took hit after hit, sacrificing themselves to give him the time he needed. Kevin's ship entered the gap. The array filled his entire view screen, massive and terrible. He could see the power core at its center, glowing with deadly energy. His weapons were offline. His shields were gone. He had only one option left. Tell them we never surrendered, Kevin Barnes said into his communication system, his voice calm despite the alarms and the fire around him. Tell them we never will. He aimed his ship at the power core and pushed the engines to maximum. The explosion was visible from 100 kilometers away. The Resolute struck the array's core at full speed, and both were consumed in a ball of white light. Secondary explosions ripped through the structure as its energy systems overloaded. Within seconds, the extinction array was nothing but fragments of twisted metal. On the human ships that remained, there was no cheering. They had won, but the cost was devastating. 12 of the 20 ships had been destroyed. Commander Kevin Barnes and hundreds of crew members were dead. Chris Palmer sat in his cockpit, staring at the wreckage. Tears ran down his face, but his hands on the controls were steady. Commander Barnes, mission accomplished, he whispered. The array is destroyed. The surviving human ships regrouped and prepared to jump home. Around them, the Council fleet was in chaos. With the array gone, their greatest weapon was useless. Ships began to retreat, their commanders unwilling to continue fighting without their ultimate advantage. Back on Earth, Admiral Lisa Morgan received the news in silence. She had known Kevin Barnes for 20 years. He had been her best commander and her closest friend. Get me a channel to all surviving ships, she said. Her face appeared on screens across the fleet. The returning heroes, battered and broken, listened to their admiral speak. Commander Barnes and everyone who fell today did not die for nothing, Lisa said. They saved Earth. They saved every man, woman, and child on our planet. We will remember them. We will honor them. And we will finish what they started. She paused, gathering her strength. The Council thought they could destroy us with fear. They were wrong. We have shown them that humanity does not break. We do not surrender. And we will never stop fighting for our survival. On the Council homeworld, High Arbiter Zorvax watched the reports with disbelief. His ultimate weapon was gone. 4 species had already announced they were withdrawing from the Alliance. His empire was crumbling around him, and the humans, those impossible, stubborn, fearless humans, were still standing. The war was not over. But for the first time, Zorvax began to wonder if he could win it. 1 month after the war began, human fleets moved across the galaxy like a force of nature. Admiral Lisa Morgan had not slept in days. She stood on the command deck of her new flagship, the Defiance, watching reports come in from 12 different star systems. Everywhere, the story was the same. Human ships struck hard and fast, destroying military targets with surgical precision, then withdrawing before the enemy could respond. The Council was falling apart. The Serati had formally withdrawn from the Alliance. The Kelvani followed 2 days later. The Brethri and 2 other species announced neutrality. Only the Velthrani and their closest allies remained, and their numbers were shrinking every day. Admiral, we are approaching the Velthrani homeworld, her navigator reported. Lisa looked at the main screen. The blue and green planet grew larger as the fleet moved closer. It was beautiful, filled with cities and forests and oceans where billions of Velthrani lived their lives. "How many military installations remain?" she asked. 17 orbital stations and 32 ground bases, all heavily armed. Lisa nodded. "Target military assets only. I do not want a single shot to hit civilian areas." "Is that clear?" "Yes, Admiral." The battle for the Velthrani homeworld lasted 3 hours. Human ships systematically destroyed defense platforms, weapons factories, and military command centers. The Velthrani fleet fought back with desperate courage, but they were outnumbered and outmatched. When the last orbital station fell silent, Lisa opened a communication channel to the planet below. "People of Velthran," she said. Her voice broadcast across the entire world. "Your military has been defeated. Your weapons are destroyed. We could continue this attack. We could bombard your cities and turn your planet into ash. Your leaders gave that order against Earth. They tried to destroy our world and everyone on it." She paused, letting her words sink in. "But we choose not to. Humanity did not start this war. We did not want it. We fought only because your council left us no other choice. And now that we have won, we will show you the mercy that your leaders would never have shown us." In his palace at the center of the capital city, High Arbiter Zorvax watched the broadcast with growing horror. His advisors had fled. His guards had abandoned their posts. He was alone, surrounded by the symbols of power that no longer meant anything. "You cannot do this," he whispered to himself. "You are supposed to destroy us. You are supposed to be monsters." But the human ships did not fire on the cities. They hung in orbit like silent guardians, their weapons pointed at nothing. They had won, and they were choosing peace. A knock came at Zorvax's door. Before he could respond, it opened. Velthrani soldiers entered, but they were not there to protect him. They were there to arrest him. "High Arbiter Zorvax," their commander said, "you are charged with crimes against the Velthrani people. You led us into a war we could not win. You tried to use the extinction array, a weapon our ancestors swore would never be used. And you did all of this for your own pride, not for the good of our species." "I did it to protect us from the humans," Zorvax protested. "They were a threat. They were only a threat because you made them one. They offered peace. You chose war." The commander gestured to his soldiers. "Take him away." 3 days later, Daniel Carter stood before the newly formed Galactic Assembly. The great chamber that had once been used to humiliate humanity was now filled with representatives from a dozen species, all looking to Earth for leadership. Ambassador Yelena stood beside him, representing the species that had broken free from Velthrani control. She smiled at Daniel, and there was genuine warmth in her silver face. "When this war began," Daniel said, addressing the assembly, "I told High Arbiter Zorvax that he had made a terrible mistake. He thought humanity was weak because we chose peace over conflict. He thought we were primitive because we showed kindness to other species. He was wrong." He looked around the chamber at the faces watching him. Some had been enemies just weeks ago. Now they listened with respect. "Our response to this war was without restraint," Daniel continued. "But that does not mean we responded with mindless violence. We were relentless in our determination to survive. We were tireless in our efforts to protect our home. And we were uncompromising in our decision to show mercy when we could have shown only destruction." He paused, thinking of Commander Kevin Barnes and all the others who had given their lives. "We did not fight this war to become conquerors. We fought it to prove that we deserve our place among the stars, not as a minor species to be controlled and dismissed, but as equals who contribute to the galaxy's future." The assembly erupted in applause. Species that had once looked down on humanity now stood and cheered. Something had changed in the galaxy. Something that could never be undone. On a human ship orbiting Earth, Chris Palmer watched the broadcast with his surviving crew members. He had been promoted twice since the battle at the extinction array. His chest was covered with medals he never asked for and did not want. How does it feel to be a hero? His co-pilot asked. Chris shook his head. I am not a hero. Commander Barnes was a hero. Everyone who died was a hero. I just did what they would have done. He looked out the window at the blue planet below. Earth was safe. His home was safe. The people he loved could live without fear of the Council's threats. What happens now? Someone asked. Chris smiled slightly. We rebuild. We help our new allies. And we prove that humanity earned this victory, not just with our weapons, but with our choices. Far away on the Velthrani homeworld, Zorvac sat in a prison cell waiting for his trial. He had spent his entire life believing that strength was the only thing that mattered. That species survived by dominating others. The humans had proven him wrong. They had won the war not just because their ships were strong, but because their cause was just. They had shown the galaxy that power without mercy was empty, that true strength included the ability to forgive. He would spend the rest of his life thinking about that lesson. And perhaps, eventually, he would understand it. On Earth, celebrations continued for weeks. People who had feared extinction now looked up at the stars with hope instead of fear. Humanity had faced its greatest challenge and emerged stronger than ever. Admiral Lisa Morgan stood on a balcony overlooking the celebrations below. Daniel Carter joined her, and together they watched the fireworks light up the sky. We did it, Daniel said quietly. We actually did it. Lisa nodded. Kevin would have loved to see this. He is seeing it. Wherever he is seeing it. They stood in silence for a long moment. Two people who had helped save their species, thinking about everyone who had made it possible. What comes next? Lisa finally asked. Daniel smiled. Everything. The galaxy is watching us now. They want to see what humanity does when we are not fighting for survival. They want to see who we really are. And who are we? Daniel looked at the stars above them, bright and endless and full of possibility. We are human. We dream big. We fight hard. We love deeply. And when the universe pushes us, we push back. He turned to face her. But when the fighting is over, we reach out our hands and help our enemies stand up again. That is who we are. That is who we will always be. The fireworks continued to explode overhead, painting the sky with light. Somewhere out there, a new era was beginning. And humanity would face it the same way they faced everything else, without restraint, without fear, and with hope for a future where every species could stand together as equals under the stars.